Hey everybody, it's John from Seattle Coffee Gear. I'm here in the commercial kitchen with the Rancilio RS1. It's their new specialty machine, and we're going to do an overview of it today, talk about some of the programming, some of the features, and dive a little bit deeper into some of the menu settings than we did on our video with Andrew from Rancilio. So why don't we get started and we can go into this. This machine is the 2-group version, obviously. It also comes in a 3-group. Not much difference in power between the two of those. The screen does shift a little bit on the 3-group, but not much. You also have 2 volumetric settings per group, and then this purge or continuous run button in the middle. Right now we have this set up to be either, so you can either press it once, and it'll run for however long you set it for. You have it set for 2 seconds, or you can press and hold and let go, and it becomes a continuous run button. And that has those same settings for each group. You can either have these groups linked, or you can have them run independently. So you can set it up. We'll show you this more in depth later. So that if you program this group, it'll control this one, or you can set it up so you can program these completely independently, which is pretty cool. You have your steam wands right here. These steam wands are proportional valves, so they're pretty cool. It's similar in how they operate to the La Marzocco Strada that we did a video on not too long ago, kind of update video on that. But a little bit different because if you go back, you have a purge setting. I know some people don't like that if they're not familiar with it. So you can go into the settings and turn this purge off. And then you also have 2 different settings there as well. Some people don't like the purge setting because they're steaming a pitcher of milk and then they go like this and kind of smack it all the way up, and they'll kick it back like as they're pulling their pitcher of milk away, and then it'll purge a little bit more and throw some big bubbles in your perfectly textured milk and ruin all that hard work you just did. So you can turn that purge setting off, which is nice. I know on some of the other machines that operate in a similar way, like a Slayer Steam, some of those, I don't believe you can turn that purge setting off, so that's a pretty nice feature. Right now we have setting 1 at 40% and setting 2 is at 100%. And then the purge is at 100% as well. So you can also set those power settings independently for each side, which is nice. Now in some shops they will have like one steam tip here for larger drinks and another steam tip here for smaller drinks, like a cappuccino, something like that. Throws a wrench in your workflow, especially if your grinders are on this side, the person's steaming milk over here with a pitcher rinser and all that, and they have to kind of cross over. So really nice to be able to have 2 separate settings for different drinks on one side, and also have it really consistent, just 2 settings instead of having to like remember how many turns it is, like you would have to do on like a Linea Classic or like the Boxer from Rocket Espresso. So nice features there. Jumping over to the hot water here. Hot water, you have 2 different buttons. These buttons can have different temperatures and different lengths of time. That's also controlled from your screen right here. So right now we have this button set for essentially like a cold water. It's still a little bit warm, but you can put your hand under it. And then this other button is set for the hottest water. Not going to put my hand under that because I don't want to get burned. One feature or interesting thing about this machine is that the hot water is on the left-hand side of the machine, which is not commonplace for espresso machines. So I was chatting with Rancilio a little bit about that, and generally that was just done to keep some of the water away from some of the more expensive electronics in the machine. But the odds of that failing and causing an issue with the electronics is pretty low. So I think that's a little bit frustrating, but after using this machine, you do get used to it. And if you're using it in a cafe every single day, you would get used to having it over here. So not that big of an issue, but definitely something to think about, and you'll have to get used to that. Down here is your pressure gauge. You have your boiler pressure, and then you also have the pressure at your groups here. One thing about that pressure gauge is it is a little bit difficult to read. So our technician here, Brian, was just mentioning that from his perspective, if he's troubleshooting with someone over the phone and asking someone to tell him what this is saying, can be a little bit difficult to read. So keep that in mind. But I mean, if those are our only two things about this machine that we don't like, I'd say it's a pretty solid machine. So all the fit and finish on this machine is just top notch, in my opinion. Things like just these portafilters, if I try and get this one out, it's really locked in there. They're completely stainless steel, and they have like these nice little cutouts right there. Everything about it is just really well thought out. They're a little bit heavier than you're used to because a lot more metal is running through the actual handle of the portafilter. But one perk of these portafilters, just another thing that was really thought through in this machine, is that you can fit a triple basket in both the bottomless and the spouted portafilter, which is really nice because you can run options and then have the same basket in each if you want to. Some machines you can't do that on. Some machines you can, but it's just nice that they did actually think of that. As I'm here, other thing to note on this machine is that the portafilter is stainless steel and the group itself is stainless steel. On a lot of machines, either the group will be a copper or the portafilter will be copper. It's like one or the other. So you have a kind of two soft metals or one hard metal and one soft metal. So it's a little bit easier to get the portafilters to lock and wear in to a good point. On this machine, because it's stainless steel against stainless steel, when we first got the machine, we were having to really crank the portafilters over to get a good seal on the group while pulling a shot. Again, it's nice that it's stainless on stainless and you don't notice it after like a week of using the machine, but it is something to consider. So if you buy this machine, you get it, you see that. It's not that the machine has an issue, you just got to keep using it. It's just designed to wear and to become worn in once you use it. So that covers kind of the functions of the machine, the whole machine itself. We're going to reset some of the cameras and get a better shot of the screen in a minute here so we can look through that. And then we'll make a drink after that and wrap up. Here we go. All right, we have a little bit tighter shot of the screen set up now so we can go through the programming a little bit more. Let me get through back to here. So right here, this is kind of your dashboard. As a barista, when you're using this machine, this is what you're gonna see. So when you look here, you have your steam boiler pressure. You have the settings for your two steam wands, right and left. And then in the center, you have the settings for your water. So we have the left one at level 0 for temperature, the right one at level 8 for temperature. So coldest, hottest, and then both running for 3.5 seconds. If you want to program any of these settings, you touch this screen. It's actually really responsive. The only issue is if you are getting up into like the upper corners there. Also, I'm not looking at it straight on. It becomes a little bit difficult to use, but for the majority as a barista, you're really only using that. So it's pretty good. If I go in here to water, I can change the temperature settings like that. Again, I feel like I'm not giving this the best representation just because I'm touching this from an angle, so it is a little bit more difficult. Let me see if it's better that way. There we go. Let's use it that way. Then up here, this is kind of your coffee dashboard where you can come in and do a lot of your programming. So there you go. That's where the programming is. And then whatever you have highlighted, that is what you are changing. So super simple. If I'm right here and this is highlighted, if you look over to this group here, this left group, this has changed. So like if I go here, it's going to change But if I go back, that is no longer highlighted. And I click again, it's now highlighted. It says self-learning. That means if I pull a shot, it's going to remember whatever parameters I just pulled that at. So it's going to record the time and the pulses. The pulses, that refers to the flow meter inside the machine, and that is spinning as water passes through it. So it's counting how many times that spins, and that's how it's recording the volume of water that passes through the shot. So if you think about this, I had 20 grams of coffee and got 40 grams out, and that equated to 376 pulses thereabout. So you can get pretty specific with the pulses. The Linea PB and the eGrow machines and a couple other machines use a similar system to this where you can adjust the pulses. So say I pull a shot, I taste it, it pulls out 39 grams, I wanted 40. I can go in here and add a couple pulses to that, and then go back down go back down to whatever I wanted at if I wanted to. As soon as I make an adjustment here without pulling that shot, what it's going to do is it's going to go into a test mode here. And that test, it also change up here from self-learning to test mode. It's going to allow me to just pull a shot at whatever parameters I adjust it to on this screen here. So keep that in mind. Anything you change it to, when you go back out, it is going to automatically save that. So keep that in mind as well. I'm going to adjust that back down to 376. There you go. And this time doesn't change anything, but it's more of your target time for some of your tracking metrics, which we'll talk about in a bit here. This machine also has the temperature profiling from the Excelsius system that Rancilio has. So you can have a different start and end temperature. We talk about that a little bit more in our other video on this machine. So if you want to learn more about that, check that out. But again, if it's highlighted, you're changing it either up or down. Like a lot of these machines, what they're doing is they're basically operating in Celsius and then converting that to Fahrenheit. So if you notice, it doesn't quite skip like a tenth each time. That's because it's skipping a tenth in Celsius and then converting that to Fahrenheit. That's actually pretty common on espresso machines. If I highlight both of these, I'm actually changing both temperatures. So as an example, if I change that one and then highlight both of these, it's going to keep the interval between those two temperatures no matter where I change that to. So if I go back and just highlight this, I can uprate that again to 200.5. That's that. Jumping back up to here, this sync button is what connects these two groups together. So if I turn sync off, I'm programming just the first group. If I turn it, and then I would have to go back out and go to my second group here. I'm gonna back out here, go back to first group, turn sync on, and it's gonna copy whatever is on this group to the right group. So it's syncing these all up. If I program this one, it programs both groups. That covers the programming in here. What we can also do from this screen is go into here, and I can click Save Recipe. I can name this recipe. So let's see, Rainier. I'm gonna go back. These are really small letters and I have big fingertips. There we go. So that is now, let's see. I don't know if I did that. This is actually the first time I've saved this. I probably should have done this before we started the video, but I thought I'd show you guys. So I'll just replace that. There we go. And then let's go here to load recipe, and I can go into here and edit this recipe. I can edit the name of it, drop that, or I can go and see the info, and then I can actually go in and see all of this, I can then change things, add notes from there, which is cool. So if you're like a multi-roaster or something like that, you can actually, say you get the same coffee once a year, you can save that recipe, then come back a year later and see what you pulled at last year, have a starting point, something like that. Just cool that the machine will remember that. And it's just data, so it's not like it's just numbers, so it's not like it's taking up a ton of memory space. So they haven't really found a limit to the memory on the machine yet, how many recipes it can remember. The next thing on this part right here is we can scroll through and we can see some of the metrics of how shots have been pulling here. So I can scroll down and see all my shots. So if I look right here, I see that double button. That is whatever my shot was pulled at. So I programmed at 30 earlier. And like say I made it through a rush or something like that, I could go back and see how consistent my shots had been pulling. I can also get out of that and swipe over, and I can see a little bit more detailed information on my variance, my pulse count, and also the time versus the preset and the variance off of that preset. If I swipe over once more, that's going to give me everything for the second group here. So that's everything in this section. Then if you swipe down here, it changes the whole screen and you get over to some more of these more in-depth things. So I can come down to here and there's a ton of stuff in here. So I can go into Brew Analysis and check all those details here as well. I can, test and do all that sort of stuff. This would be great for a technician. You can also go in and change pretty much everything here. You can plan your boiler renew. You can set reminders for when your filters need to be changed, your water filters need to be changed. You can check your sensors, all that sort of stuff. So massive amounts of diagnostics that you can check under performance. You can set a screensaver off of a USB drive. You can update the machine off of the USB. You can go in here to info. That'll have even more info there. So very smart. Go into settings, turn off your lights, whatever. If I click out of lights, it's going to turn that off. Turn that back on. Scroll down here. I can see pretty much everything here. Go back out, scroll back over, and this is the technician menu here. So you can password protect that. We don't have it password protected right now, just because we are showing you all these settings here. Let's go ahead and go up here. So up here, this can be accessed from pretty much any part of the machine. If you've ever used a computer, you're familiar with like the screen or the little tab up above that has all your different options there, kind of your shortcuts. If you go here, you can block the display. You can use that to clean the display, which is nice. You can go into here, turn off the heating elements if you ever need to do that for some reason. You can adjust your cup warmer temperature, very Italian to have that. This is also where you'll find the automatic cleaning. So if I go into here, it's going to take me through all the different steps of what to do, kind of similar to the programming on their Super Autos. Scroll back to that home screen there. That covers the majority of the programming functionality of this machine, how this screen operates, which is the kind of hub of this whole machine. So we'll get reset here and make some drinks, and then we'll close it out. All right, let's make a drink. So I'm going to use this left portafilter. I'm actually going to split this drink into 2 cups. So I'll make kind of a cortado, Gibraltar, whatever you want to call it there, and then just an espresso as well. Today I'm using the Rainier Morning Blend that Brandywine does for us. It's a really nice kind of lighter side medium roast. So I don't know if it was intentional, but the flavor note they call out is Rainier Cherry. For Rainier Morning, Rainier Mountain, Rainier Cherry. It actually does taste like Rainier cherries if you've ever had one. So pretty good as espresso. Good as espresso and drip, but the cherry flavors are really concentrated as espresso. I'm dosing about 20 grams. I'm using a triple basket here. And generally we use the same baskets on most of the machines we have, just so we can have a good baseline on what the machine is doing instead of testing the baskets that the machine has in it. I'm looking for about 40 grams out in like the high 20s to low 30s. So I have it programmed in here at about 200 plus degrees, just about, to extract a little bit more from that. And then it looks like my dial-in was at 30 seconds, and then the pulses were 376, in case you wanted to know. So here we go, and I have that set for the second button for the right grinder. Awesome, 28 seconds out. How many pulses was that? Let's go to the detailed one here. Yeah, right at 376, 28 seconds. So pretty much spot on there. All right. Got my little Cortado Gibraltar thing and my espresso. That's that. I'll start off with this. And this is a little bit cooler here. That's delicious. Yeah, the milk is super easy to texture on this machine. The steam tip design is kind of similar to like what Alarm Marzocco uses, which is what I am most familiar with steaming milk on, what I use in coffee shops. So the steam tips kind of point out, which is nice. It makes it a little bit easier to get some texture out of the milk. Steamed really predictably. Actually gonna stir this. Thanks, James Hoffman. Yeah, that's really good. The rainy cherry comes through. A little bit of lemon in there. Almost some like herbal notes or like an oregano or thyme or something like that. But yeah, no like lingering bitterness or anything like that after it. So really enjoy that. And yeah, super predictable, easy to use with this machine. We talk a little bit more about kind of the technical stuff about it in our other video with Andrew from Rancilio, as he is the specialist with this machine. So if you want more info, make sure to check out that video. If you have questions about the machine, check out or leave us a comment down below, or you can give us a call. Go to our website to find all those details. Like the video if you enjoyed it. If you want to see more of our videos, subscribe to our channel. We'd love to have you here and watching all the reviews and instructional videos that we do. If you ever thought about opening a coffee shop, give us a call. If you want to talk about replacement equipment for your shop or restaurant or bar, office, anything like that, give us a call. We'd love to talk with you about that. This has been the crew review of the Rancilio RS1. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.